What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Sitting with Sean, episode number 17. Holy crap, I've done 17 episodes. This is wild. Today, I have a very, very awesome guest, Samuel Thomas. How you doing, Samuel?
Doing great, man. How are you?
I can't complain, can't complain. I've had worse days. Yeah, definitely, definitely. And we were just talking about your day prior to this, man, and your day seems a lot more illustrated than mine did. Yeah,
Happened
but
in a very short amount of time, too.
oh man, yeah, it's just like a shotgun blast. Everything happens all at one time, and then it slows down.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yep. So, Samuel, would you like to give a formal introduction of yourself?
Well, I'm Samuel, and I live right now, currently in Los Angeles, California. I am 53 years old. I am 22 years sober, and I don't know what else to say. I work as a chef right now at a restaurant in downtown LA. We already talked about what's going on with that.
Yeah.
I've cooking for 30 years. So on a side note, which is really funny, is your dad. I went to my first concert with your dad. I did.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, I went to and him and your uncle. It was him, your uncle Gordon, and Gordon Contrell, and they took me to my very first rock concert.
Oh
Well,
man, what
Gordon
was
drove.
it?
The Firm. It was the Firm.
Nice,
Yeah, Jimmy
nice.
Page, Paul Rogers, Tony Franklin, Chris Slade. Yeah, and it was a night. It was a night.
Yeah, I was about to bring up and say you kind of grew up around my dad.
I did. I grew up with your dad. We went to school together. Your dad, your uncle, Gordon. I think your mom too, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. We all kind of grew up together, and your dad was around because we all kind of hung out together. And the funny part was Gordon was playing in a band. When I met your dad through Gordon Contrell, and
Hmm.
we all went to school together, and we all kind of hung out together. And it was like Gordon, me, a whole bunch of us hung out. And then I think I bought the ticket off your dad, actually. Yeah. And then your uncle came, and then all four of us kind of hung out together. And before the concert, we met up at the park by Bligwood Police Station, by the park right there. And we sat there and got high and drunk, and then Gordon drove. We all hopped in Gordon's car. And we went to the Capitol Center. Not there anymore. We went to the Capitol
No,
Center, and the party continued there. And it continued the concert, and it was a night, man. It was a night. It was my very first ever like actual rock concert. Yeah, and it was a
that's
lot of
awesome.
fun.
That's awesome. That is
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah. I heard stories from my dad. Obviously, he was on the podcast
yeah,
twice and wanted to tell the addiction and mental health side of things from his
yeah.
perspective.
Right.
Man, I've heard stories, and I actually in that podcast learned more about my dad than I have for the past 33 years of my life.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know a lot about when he was younger. I only heard stories here and there. I didn't hear a lot about his addiction and like getting clean and sober. Up until that point, and then just everything that he went through. I hadn't heard a
Mhm.
lot about that. So hearing it from his perspective and then now from yours is pretty awesome.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun together. We did. We
Yeah.
did. Because when Gordon played in his band called Eternal Torment, and so it was the bass player was a friend of mine, their lead singer was a friend of mine, and I met Randy, the guitar player, through Gordon Contrell, and then your dad was hanging out. I was at the practices and stuff, and then your dad knew Joey, who was the bass player at the time. And Joey was a raging alcoholic, like raging alcoholic. The guy blew a .40 when he woke up in the morning and drove his mom to work and got pulled over. He hadn't had a
Woo.
beer yet and blew a
Wow.
.40.
Wow.
So that's how much Joey drank. And so we all kind of partied like that. And it was just, and I don't think, speaking from my own perspective, it wasn't like we were out trying to like, I don't know, kill ourselves or any of that stuff. It was just the way it was. We partied hard, and it's just kind of what we did. If there was beer to be drank, we're drinking it. If
Yeah.
weed to be smoked, we're smoking it. You
Yeah.
know, you passed out, then that's your ass. We're gonna fuck with you and do a kind of stupid shit to you. But you
Yeah.
know, pass out around us, that's your ass.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
fun, man. It wasn't malicious and any of that stuff, man. We just had it was a lot of fun going to shows and going to parties and a lot of keg parties. A lot of woods
Yeah.
keg parties, house keg parties, house parties. It was just a lot of fun, man. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's probably why I
Yeah.
did it for so long.
That's the common misconception. I'm gonna hit a misconception real quick that a lot of
Like,
people have about when we get into recovery is that
right.
when we get into recovery, we kind of people think that we damn those times and say, oh, they're bad times. No, there was a few bad times, but we had a lot of good times
Mhm.
in those moments. A lot of times that we'll never forget or never
Right.
remember.
Right. What's funny is people always ask me, do you miss, drinking? And the answer is no, I don't miss it. I miss my friends for sure.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't when I first started, I was late to the party because they were already drinking before I even got there. Like they were
Yeah.
already doing their thing, and I was the late comer to the party.
You're a
I was
late
still
bloomer.
kind of like a good kid, kind of like I was playing drums and hanging out and listening to metal and all that stuff, but I wasn't like a heavy drinker or any of that stuff. And when I started partying, they were already knee deep. And but we
Yeah.
all went to school together, and I've known like a lot of the people that my dad and your dad and I hung out with, I've known since elementary school, like junior high school, high school. So we already had a friendship developed already
Yeah.
there. It just the alcohol and drugs were just kind of a part of part of everything. So when people ask me, do I miss it? And I go, no, I don't miss it. I don't. I don't miss drinking. I don't miss getting high. I don't miss any of that stuff. But I do miss my friends because we had
Yeah.
a lot of fun together. It was a lot of good times, a lot of some bad times, but overall, like these are the guys I grew up with, girls and guys I grew up with. It wasn't just about the drugs and alcohol. Like I knew the families and siblings, and now they have
Yeah.
kids, and I have kids, and of course, your dad was a
Yeah.
friend of mine. So
Yeah.
it's just, it's not. I don't know. I can't. You're right. People always think that it's just like, oh God, it was so bad and so terrible. No, it wasn't. All of
Yeah.
it wasn't bad. It wasn't. I'm not gonna sit there and tell you that I didn't have a blast. I had a blast. I had a lot of fun. That's probably why I kept doing it for so long because
Yeah.
because in your head you're trying to have those times. But what always ends up happening, especially for me, is I always end up going to jail. So,
Yeah.
I don't miss going to jail. No,
Yeah.
I don't miss handcuffs. I don't miss going to jail. I don't miss waking up in jail. I don't miss the jail food or the mentality or the lifestyle. That I don't miss. And that's why I don't drink, because every time I drink, I go to jail. You
Yeah.
know, so why would I want to drink? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, yeah. You cut the problem out of the solution or out of the situation, and you got your solution.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
and,
exactly, exactly.
you hit on having good times and remembering those good times and the friends that you created. And I created like a whole shit ton of good friends
Right,
when I was in my active addiction, and we're still close to this day. I actually just got back from Nashville last week, and I went to go visit a friend of mine that I used to party with when I was in the army, and like he's clean now. He's sober
right,
now. He's a much better person. But those friendships, much better person than he used to be, and I'm
right.
so grateful for him. And actually, he's going to be my next guest on the show, which is crazy.
Cool.
But you know, being able to see him in a different perspective, being sober now, and then him being sober is great.
Right.
So that I don't have to look at him and be like, "Fuck, what did we do last night?" you know, because I remember it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So you hit a little bit on what it was like in your active addiction, but tell us a little bit more about what it was like in your active addiction.
Well, in the beginning, like I said, it was fun, and it was. There were some problems, like when you're under 21 and you're trying to get loaded and you live in a home with your mom. It's a little difficult. So you gotta navigate the waters of, can I get past her without her knowing that I'm fucked up? Can I get out the house without her knowing where I'm going? Can I I gotta I never went to school hardly at all, so I would walk in the house at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm hammered more and more time than not. And I'm going, is she home? Is she got her second job? Did I miss her? What's going on? Did the school call? kind of thing. And it was always like you're on that edge of walking in the door, not knowing what's going to happen to you because you haven't been to school in like 2 months. You're 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 not sober. You're getting loaded. You're not 21, and everything's just fun to you and fun and games, and the consequences come. You're like, "All right, whatever. You just keep going." And so that's kind of how it was until I actually was 21, and then it just went from there to like because I work in food industry, and I started cooking. I started working in restaurants in 1990 at the IHOP Riverdale. That's not there anymore. They tore it down. It's so sad. Um, and so when I did construction for a minute. We smoked weed and all that. We started sites and drank after work and all that. But it didn't seem like it wasn't to me. It wasn't a problem because my life was still functioning. I mean, I did the coke crack thing when it first came out from what 18 to 20 ish. I was knee deep in the crack game, homeless, crack houses, the whole bit. Did all that, and after I got myself together, quote unquote, I was back to smoking weed, drinking, and it wasn't an issue because everybody around me was doing it, living the exact same lifestyle. So when you're around people who are living the same lifestyle, you don't see the issue because no one because everybody else is doing it, and it's just like you're just part. You're another face in the crowd of dysfunctional drunk alcoholics who go to work every day and come home and drink all night and party all night and then go to work and do it all over again. So that was my life until I met my ex-wife. Um, and when I met my ex-wife, I was 23, and she was from Montgomery County, Maryland. Her parents were still married. Her brothers were still virgins. They, they were in college. She was on her way to, finishing up school and going to college. And here I am, this raging lunatic drug addict I was playing in death metal band when I met her. I was playing the Sealed Fate, the death metal band I was in. So I'm playing drums in the death metal band. I'm in the death metal scene. Your dad was hanging out with all of us. So it was Eternal Torment, Deceased, our band Sealed Fate, Abominab, Morticious, Indestroy, and I think it was another band. I can't think of the name of it right now. That was around too. So all of us were partying all the time. So I was like playing drums and seal fake, going to rehearsal, going to down to hang out with deceased, going down to seeing shows, going to parties, doing all this stuff. And I have this girlfriend who's straight laced, straight edge, never done anything wrong in her entire life. And I'm in love with this girl, and she's in love with me, and she has no idea who I am outside of our relationship.
Yeah.
Like none, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm not realizing this at the time, but I'm living this double life, like where I'm this guy in front of her and her family, but when I go home, I'm a totally different. I'm like who I've always been.
Yeah.
Then, so Sealed Fate kind of went the way of the dodo on so many levels, and I started playing drums in another alternative punk band, rock band, and it was through a friend of my ex-wife's, and so I hung out with these guys, and they're from Montgomery County. They're all from Montgomery County, so they're straight. They're not straight laced, but they don't party like I do. They don't live like I do. So when I started hanging out with them, they're like, "Who in the hell is this maniac?" You know, you know, I'm drinking, I'm smoking, I'm like, let's go get high before rehearsal. They don't do that. They don't smoke any weed. No one in the band smokes weed but me. You know.
Yeah.
So I'm smoking before the weed. I'm smoking before rehearsal. The one guitar player smokes cigarettes. He gonna have a cigarette. I have a cigarette in the joint. Like, and I partied hard as fuck. And they gave me a ride home one day. And I lived in Riverdale at the time. So they gave me a ride on the Riverdale back in the '90s was like the Wild Wild West, And
Yeah.
I told them, I said, when you drop me off, don't stop, keep driving. If anybody gets in front of your car, run them the fuck over. Like, just don't stop, because they're gonna try to rob you. You're gonna do what?
Yeah.
They all freaked out. They never gave me a ride home ever again. That's the neighborhood I lived in. So to me, that's normal.
Yeah.
So I met my father-in-law the day after I got shot. So I got shot in my arm walking to the store. I just came off the road with Sister Torment. That's the band. Sister Torment was with Jacob, my friend Jacob, my oldest friend. That was his band. So the bass player for Dying Fetus was in Sister Torment. So it was Sean, Jacob, this guy Brett. I forgot the other guitar player's name, and Vinny was their lead singer. Vinny from Criminal Element was their lead singer at the time. So we did a show in West Virginia, and after the show we come back, and I was the only black guy at this fucking show. So the owner of the house gave me this big ass bag of weed. right?
Jesus.
They gave me
Yeah.
this huge, like this. They gave me a handful of weed and a cat. I got a handful of weed and a kitten. So I come home with the kitten. Yeah,
Random. Just so random. A massive bag of weed and a cat.
yeah. So I got a big ass bag of weed and a fucking kitten. My mom wanted a cat, so I bring the cat home to my mom, and I have this bag, I have this weed, and so I didn't have any rolling papers. So my brother goes, "Don't go outside. They're gonna have a fucking shootout," and I'm drunk. And I'm like, "Look, I need to smoke some weed. Fuck them in their shootout. I'm drunk. I'm gonna walk and get some rolling papers." So I'm walking up the street to get rolling papers, and I look to my right, and there's this guy coming from behind these row of pine trees, and I see him, and I'm like, he doesn't have a gun in his hand. And I'm walking. I look over again, and he's pointed the gun at me.
Whew.
So I turn and try to run, and he shoots me in the back, shoots me from behind, and catches me in the shoulder. So I got shot, and I go to the hospital, go through all that stuff, and then I called my girlfriend at the time, and I said, "Hey, I got shot last night. Just so you know, I'm still coming up to meet your dad, but I just got shot. Just so you know." So I've got a bottle full of Percocets. I go to Montgomery County to
Mm.
meet the girl's father for the first time ever, you know. And yeah, I got my arm in a sling and a bullet hole in my arm. And I'm
Yeesh.
meeting my future father-in-law for the first time. That to me is the epitome of alcoholism. Like, I'm gonna do this. Who cares what people think?
Yeah.
Like, okay. Her dad couldn't get me out of that house fast enough, dude. I swear. But that's
Right.
just, and like I said, like that's kind of how my life went. It was like on the surface, I'm this guy, but if you go beneath the surface, it's a whole other level of insanity. And that was just how my life went. We got married. She got pregnant. We got married. We moved in together. I was still trying to live that double life. Didn't work out. We had a daughter. I was in and out of rehab from 94 until in Maryland from 94 to 97. I was in and out of rehab. Well,
Mm.
96. 97. Yeah, 97. I was in and out of rehab. In and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And the truth is, I didn't do it for me. I did it to save my marriage. I did it to save my job. I did it because people wouldn't leave me alone and let me drink the way that I wanted to drink. So I think I get sober to appease them. And the sad part about that whole situation was I always had that thing in my head that said, if this happens, I'm drinking. If this happens, I'm drinking. And all those things that I said in my head that if they happen, I'm going to drink happened because I was not serious. I didn't want to be sober. I didn't want
Yeah.
to be sober. So why would I not have an out? You know what I mean? Like, why not have an out? Because I don't want to be sober. So if this happens, I can justify my getting low. If this happens, I can justify my getting low. Like, to me, not to them, but to me, And all
Yeah.
those things happened, man. Like all those things that I said, if she does this, I'm drinking. If he does that, I'm drinking. If they do this, I'm drinking. And it did, and it happened. So when my last um, vendor, well, in Maryland, took me to California because I relapsed. I relapsed, and I was back smoking crack. I was back drinking. I was back smoking weed. I was lying to my wife again. She was buying it. Her mother wasn't buying it, but she was buying it hook, line, and sinker. And then her mom said, "If you don't change what you're doing, he's going to leave you. And
Mm.
you gotta do something about this because you're taking it." She goes, "I want to talk to you. Say 6 months sober." I'm like, "All right, I'll get 6 months sober." And I had almost 6 months sober. We started talking again. We started seeing each other again. And I got loaded because I wasn't going to meetings. I wasn't working with a sponsor. I wasn't working with sponsees. I wasn't working the steps. I wasn't part of a program. I was just out in the world living without a program, which will get you loaded, if you're trying to stay sober.
Yeah.
And so I got loaded, and then I realized, man, I don't want to be sober. And my kids were 3 and 2 at the time, and I was like, I don't want to be sober. I was sitting, I was living in a trailer in Germantown, well, Middlebrook technically,
Hmm.
and I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I packed up my shit and came to California. Like, I literally, she didn't even know I had left.
Mm.
I called her from Texas and told her where I was.
Damn.
And she's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm like, I can't be in this situation right now. I need to go." And I got here to LA. I got here to LA April 12th of '97, and and I've been here. I came here, April 12th, 97, and I had no idea that LA was a mecca of sobriety. Like no clue, like none. I
Yeah.
had no idea this was the mecca of the 12-step program, right? And I spent 3.5 years here in LA, going to jail, smoking meth, making meth, all kinds of insanity, homeless, not homeless, job, no job, just kind of like just kind of running amok, man. Like the book talks about it being a self-will run riot, and that's me when I drink. I'm a self-will run riot. That's just the facts of the matter. And so I was under federal investigation for manufacturing methamphetamine and other substances, and and I got arrested on January 6th of 2000, and I can't tell you what or why it was different. It just was, you know, like everything leading up to that day was just insanity, 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 insanity. The LAPD were under orders not to arrest me. I found that out and went fucking nuts. Because
Wow.
I was on a federal investigation, so the LAPD couldn't arrest me. They told me that. They didn't want to told me that. Like they arrested me for possession, and they had to let me go. They were ordered
Wow.
to let me go.
Damn.
So I got arrested for possession on Venice Beach. I got arrested for possession, and they were ordered to let me go. And they gave me my weed back, my pipe back, and was like, "You're under federal investigation. Good luck, kid. Like, good luck."
Wow.
And I was like, "Holy shit!" And when I heard that, man, it was just like I didn't believe him. I didn't when I heard it at first, like, yeah, whatever. And then my roommate at the time, he was selling speed, and somebody traded him a police scanner for speed. So we had a police scanner in our apartment. It was
Wow.
awesome. When you're a speed dealer with a police scanner, pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I took it from him one day and was just dicking around with it in the car with my girlfriend at the time. And then we were listening to this police scanner, just me and some friends just dicking around, and they were calling out our streets as we're driving down the road. And that's when I realized that the cops weren't lying. That I was being followed by the police, and they were following me, and I was under federal investigation, and it was a real thing. So when I got arrested on January 6th of 2000, the person who arrested me wasn't even a cop; it was a community service officer who arrested me for rollerblading on the Third Street Promenade in Santa Monica. That's what I got popped for, and a warrant in Culver City for possession of 0.5 grams of meth. That's what I got
Wow.
arrested for. And so when they took me in, the desk sergeant told her she had to call the federal building to see what they wanted to do. And she called them, and they told her that it was up to her what she wanted to do. And so she came back to the cell and says, "I just called the feds, and we're keeping you." And that woman saved my life because I was actually on my way to pick up a 3 ounce of speed from this heroin dealer. That's where I was headed to when
Wow.
she popped me for rollerblading. I had met this heroin dealer on the pier. I love playing video games and I'm fucking loaded. So I was down on the pier playing video games, and he showed up and he had 4 keys of heroin and 1 ounce of speed, and he didn't want the speed. So he goes, "I'm gonna give you the speed because I don't want it because I can't move it. I don't know anybody that wants it. I'm gonna give it to you because you're the guy down here selling speed, so you can have the fucking thing. I don't even want it." I was like,
Yeah.
"All right." So I'm going to go. I was going to meet him at this hotel where he was staying at with his girlfriend, but I never made it. And I always tell myself that I shudder to think what would have happened if I had gotten that 3 ounce of speed. Like what would have happened to me? Where would I be
Yeah.
today if I'd have gotten that 3 ounce of speed?
Yeah.
Um, so I go to jail, and it was like this 4.5 month long moment of clarity, man. Like it was just like it was weird. It all just kind of like you know how you get to a point in your life where you just like you reflect, even when you don't want to. You just kind of like, this is who I am. This is where I'm at. This is fuck.
How the fuck did I get here?
Yeah. And you're questioning your sanity and your morals and your
Yep.
motives, and you're like wondering if going left is the right thing to do or if going right is the right thing to do, and it's out of your control. Like it's out of your hands. You have no control over what's happening in your brain. It's just a floodgate of emotions and thoughts and feelings, and you're just like, who in the hell am I? And that's what happened, man. I was just sitting in this jail cell, like, what the hell? And the more I thought about it, the more terrified I became. I just came of myself. Like I
Yeah.
started looking at what happened was, I started looking at who I had become and what I had become and what I had done with my life and where I was at that point in my life and all the debauchery and all of the insanity and all the like stuff I had committed that I didn't get arrested for.
Yeah.
Well, that's a
Yeah.
laundry list of shit I didn't get arrested. I didn't get arrested for that I pulled off. So
Yeah.
and I became afraid of myself. I really became afraid of who I was at the time as a person. Not like I'm afraid I'm going to do this or do that. It was like this is who I am as a person, my persona, my reputation, my ego, my thoughts, my feelings, my actions. This is who I've become, and I'm like, holy shit! And it was like I was terrified. So I spent the last month in jail, not wanting to leave jail. Like I wanted to
Yeah.
stay. Because I'm gonna be left alone with this guy. Like I'm not left alone with this fucker right here. Like nah, I don't want to be left alone with him. Like I don't want to be left alone with him, and that's how I felt. And when I got out, the girlfriend left me. I hung out with her the other night, and I told her too. I said, yeah, if you hadn't left me, I wouldn't have gotten sober. She goes, really? I'm like, yeah. She goes, you were the last thing I had. You were the last thing I had in my life that was worth anything. And when you broke up with me, it was like I was devastated. Like I'm like, what do I do now? Like I
Yeah.
told her, I said, what do I do now? Like I've lost. I had to go to rehab. I was court ordered to rehab. I was court ordered. I was ordered by the courts to go to rehab. I was ordered by the courts to be. I was on supervised probation. I had to get to my probation officer within 30 days of being released. So couldn't be drug dealer anymore. I couldn't get high anymore. And then she's like, I'm out. Like, and she was ride or die, dude. She was literally a fucking straight ride or die. And then she said to me, she goes, "No, I was young and stupid. Is what I was." I went, "Yep, there it is." Because I know I
Yeah.
was young and stupid is what it was. And I was like, "Yeah." And I thought, "Fuck." And I said, "If you hadn't left me, I would have not gone to rehab because I had nothing else left." And the cold part about it was when I was at the bus stop waiting to go to rehab, she drove past me in her car and didn't even see me. And
Wow.
she goes, probably because I didn't have my glasses on or I needed glasses at the time. And I didn't even recognize you. But in my mind, I'm all like, she didn't even notice me. Like, and see, I was above this girl at the time, and I
Yeah.
was devastated. So I go to rehab, and the beautiful part about when you're at that point in your life, it's like whatever is the exact opposite of where you're at sounds good.
Yeah.
It just does. It just does. It just does. It sounds great.
Yeah.
Because you're at that point, like it says in the book, you're at that point of the jumping off point, and you're
Mhm.
beaten into a state of reasonableness. So anything that remotely sounds like non-toxic, you're like, yes, I want that because it's
Yeah.
going to keep me sober, or I'll do that because it's going to keep me sober, or I'm going to do that because I don't have to deal with how I'm feeling right now because I can focus on something else. And
Yeah.
I think my first 7 days, all I did was vomit and sleep because I was dope
Mm.
sick. I
Yeah.
vomited and slept. That's all I did, and drank lemonade. So I could smoke cigarettes. I couldn't with solid food. It smelled horrible. Like
Yeah.
I smelled food and go vomit. Like it was like immediate vomit. So on day 8, I smelled food and didn't want to vomit, so I ate. I had dinner. So,
Yeah.
and then after that, man, it was like, and I remember the counselor going, "What do you want to do now?" And I was like, what can I do? Like I'm like, what are my options? And he goes, you can go to this rehab or this rehab or this rehab. And I chose the first one he talked about because it was right around the corner from where I was at the detox where I was at. And so
Hmm.
I got sober in downtown LA on Skid Row in the heart of the insanity that was drugs and alcohol.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I got sober. That's where I got sober at.
Wow.
Um, and I'm a firm believer in if you're done getting loaded, it doesn't matter where you get sober at. If you're done getting loaded, you're not going to get loaded. You're not.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you're truly done, you're not going to drink. It doesn't matter where you are. You can be in Malibu with some fucking bougie ass fucking $5,000 fucking month fucking sober living, or you could be living like I did on GR and welfare in downtown LA in the heart of Skid Row. If you're done, you're done. It doesn't matter where
Yeah.
you are. You know.
You know, I can relate to something you said earlier.
Yeah.
You were talking about like the fact that you made a plan for if somebody if this person does this, I'm gonna get fucked up.
Right.
And so I set myself up in ways where it was like, okay, I'm gonna get and you said you were getting sober for other people, you didn't want it for yourself.
Right.
And like I didn't fucking want it for me. I didn't want it for me. I didn't want it for. I wanted it because this person said they're going to leave me, and if that person does leave me, I don't have a reason to stay sober.
Right.
You know, I can go back to my own devices. I can go back to what I want to do, and I can get fucked up. You know what I mean? And like, and so I ran that mill so many damn times that it was like, okay, here's the next song and dance. Let's do it again. Let's
Right.
wait for that person to leave me because it's inevitable. They're gonna fucking leave me.
Yeah.
And and that point that I got, you know, and I stopped telling my wife this, but I used to tell her, I'm like, what are you waiting for? Just leave,
Yeah.
you know, because it's gonna happen anyways. And when I would say that, she would look at me with this like this, not disgust but this love, and she would say, why do you think I'm gonna leave you? And I said, because everybody in my life has, my mom, my dad, my fucking grandparents, my brother, my sister, everybody in my life has left me. Why don't you go now and save me the trouble? And that was the hardest thing to admit, was to admit that I was expecting her to leave me because everybody in my life had.
Right.
And that trigger was there, and it wasn't until like I realized that she's not going to leave unless she feels like she's ready to,
Right.
or unless she dies. Like
Right.
that, those are the two conditions, and I don't see her leaving anytime soon.
That's good.
Yeah, but I get, I mean, but I got to this point in my sobriety that I was like, not even in my sobriety, in my life, that I said if I'm going to do this, I got to do this for myself, because if she does leave, or if my kids are gone, you know, or God forbid they get hit by a car, I have to stay sober for myself, because that's all I have, and
Right.
that's what I can relate to.
Right. When I think I had so I had 9 months. I had 9 months, and I was working, and I got a job. I got a job at this at a restaurant in on Melrose, and so I got fired after being there for about 2 months. I think maybe less than 2 months. I got fired. They didn't tell me why. They just they fired me. I didn't get it. I pretty much I was just I was an asshole. I was arrogant. I was shit. I was
Yeah.
very disrespectful. I was you know so, and I was like, this doesn't work. This program doesn't work. This is bullshit. Blah blah blah. So I'm walking up. I'm walking up Highland. I'm walking up Highland, going towards Sunset, and I'm pissed. They gave me all my money, so I had probably like maybe a grand, almost 2 grand in my pocket. And I'm over the program. I'm gonna call this person and do. I'm doing what call people. I call people. I called my counselor. Talked to him. I called my sponsor. He didn't answer, but his roommate did. I called my ex-wife. I called all these people, and I wasn't getting that relief that I thought I was supposed to get from all these phone calls. And so I said, I'm making one more phone call, God, one more. And I called my friend Kaiser, and I told Kaiser what was going on, and he said, where are you? And I told him I said I'm in Highland and Sunset. And he goes, well, I'm at Selma in between Sunset, which is 4 blocks away from where I was. He
Hmm.
said, meet me at the post office and let's hang out. And I was like, fuck, because I said about this, if I call this guy and he doesn't answer my phone, I'm going to get loaded. I know where the drug dealers are around here. I'm going to take my money. I'm going to get high. And he called me. He called me back, like not even 2 minutes later, and he and I hung out. Went to his house, put up a double N bag, put up a speed bag. He was a boxer, and
Hmm.
then we went to we watched the De La Hoya fight that night. At another guy's house who's from my home group, and then I thought to myself, this is what it's about. Like you don't give up. You got to keep moving forward. You got to keep going, no matter what happens. And that's when I was sold on the idea of this being a spiritual program. And I know we don't want to talk about God. I understand that. And
Hmm.
we're not going to go into that. But that to me is part of the spiritual aspects of the 12-step program. Is that it's not so much about God. It's about people helping people.
Hmm.
Like I'm gonna pick up the phone and call someone because I feel like shit, and I call that person up and I talk to that person and I get off the phone. If I don't feel better, I call someone else, and I keep going and I keep going and I keep going and I keep going until I get that relief. And even if I don't get loaded
Yeah.
because I'm still trying to make myself better. And it's not a magic pill, man. The phone is a it's not a I mean it's a magic pill, but it's not the instant relief pill that you want to have. Maybe you might call somebody and on that first phone call and be like and snap out of whatever funk you're in. And I hope that works for people. I do, I honestly do. But sometimes it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta put some work in to get that to get that relief that you want, or or to feel better about what's happening with you. Like today, my lady, not in the program, total lightweight, 2 drinks, and she's fucking on the floor. I wish that was my story. Can't smoke weed because she's allergic to weed. Can't smoke weed because she got an allergy towards it, an actual physical allergy. Like, and I'm like, I wish that was my story. I wish I smoked weed and it made me fucking ill and sick and I couldn't smoke it anymore. And I wish I could have 2 drinks and be on the floor. Like she
Yeah.
can take it or leave it. Like it's not even an issue. I can take it or leave it. I'm like, fuck. Like I'm not that. And I never will be. I never.
Yeah.
You can't turn a pickle back into a cucumber, as they say. So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I will never. I will never be able to drink safely. As my friend Wayne says, if you're truly an alcoholic and a real alcoholic, you will never be able to drink safely ever again.
Yeah.
Not saying you can't drink. You can drink. You can totally go get drunk. But how safe are you going to be to yourself and everyone else? You know,
Very much facts.
who are you going to be? Oh, should I say, like a counselor once said to me in rehab when I first got there, he told me 2 things and I always remember. He first told me, "You're too smart for the program, Sam, because you're too smart for this. You can tell me what every word means. You can analyze this backwards and forwards. I mean, it all makes sense." He goes, "You're too smart for this. You're way too smart. You gotta dumb you down to understand what's going on around here." And I was like, "Damn, really? Like I didn't know that." And the second
Yeah.
thing he said to me was, "How do you want to be remembered? How do you want to be remembered by people?" He goes, "You want people to come to your funeral and say, because he goes, you're going to die either sober or not sober. It's going to happen. One way or another, you're going to end up in the ground." And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "How do you want to be remembered? You want people to come to your funeral and say nice things about you and say they're going to miss you? Or people say, that motherfucker owes me money. He did this, he did that, blah, 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 blah." And
Yeah.
I thought about that. I was like, holy shit. Like, he's right. Like, because I've been to funerals. I've been to funerals a whole bunch, and
Yeah.
it's like, how do you want to be remembered by people? Because sometimes you don't get to make that second impression.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't get to like make that amends to someone. Sometimes people say, "You know what, fuck you, don't ever call me again." And
Yeah.
then what? So I try to live my life based on the principle of, I'm meeting this person for the first time. Will it be the last time? I don't know. But I have to pretend like it's going to be the last time, because if I don't and shit goes sideways, they're going to walk away from me going, "Well, that guy did this, and this." And then he'll tell somebody
Yeah.
else, "Hey, I met that person. He was like this."
Yeah.
So I try not to. My last ride, the last ride I had today, I decided, you know what? I am going to help him out and take him where he needs to go. So he wanted to go to the store and get some stuff. I did that. He wanted to borrow money. I was like, "No, I'm not doing that." He wanted me down to the bar store tomorrow. Let me know I can't do that. I was honest with him. I told him why.
Yeah.
But I tried to be as nice and as polite and as respectful as possibly can. Because I probably never see that guy again. I hope I never see him again, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I try to be as nice as possible, because I don't know if I'm going to see him again. I don't know what his life is like. His foot was bandaged up. He's on crutches. He's already having a shit day. I don't need to be any worse
Yeah.
than the day he's already having. And I try to
Yeah.
live that way to the best of my ability. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But
Yeah.
the intent is always to have empathy for people, because you don't know what their struggle is. You don't.
Absolutely.
You know? So
Absolutely.
I try to live like that, man. Because when I was getting loaded, I didn't give a shit about no one, not even
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, like when they get into the program, going back to the 12-step programs, I think a lot of people, what detracts them from actually joining is the God portion. They say, "Oh, it's too God for me," and it's like,
Oh,
well, you know what? Like, there's a chapter called "We Agnostics." If you
yeah,
do not
yeah,
believe in God, there's a
yeah,
chapter. I mean, I don't, I don't necessarily believe in a monotheistic version of God, but the program fits around my belief.
right,
The program isn't solely based on God. It's about getting sober and staying that way, and why we use and how we prevent ourselves from using. You know, and getting ourselves around people, like-minded people that are working this common thing that's called recovery,
right.
and connecting with other human beings with a like mind and bringing them together. And I don't know if that's something that you've seen, but the God aspect is what is driving people away from the 12 steps.
Well, I speaking from so I try to tell people, especially my sponsees, like when I sit down with someone to go through the book with them, your religious beliefs are your own. I'm not here to tell you what to believe and what not to believe. I'm a Buddhist. I practice Nichiren
Mm-hmm.
Buddhism. I have for the last 5 years. It's the best thing that I've ever done since getting sober. Since I've been sober 22 years, and I did the God thing for 20, almost 19, almost 18, 19 years, I think, something like that. I started practicing Nichiren Buddhism in 2017, November 2017, and it's revolutionized everything about my life. Won't get in too much into that, other than to say that it's the best thing I've ever done. I tell my sponsees that it's not about whether you believe whether what God you believe in. It doesn't matter. I don't care what God you believe in. You can believe in no God. You can believe in a God. I know people that are atheists that have got 35 years sober. I know a woman who's like she's like I think she practices transcendental whatever that is. And she's got like almost 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not so much about God. And if you look at when the book was written and who wrote the book, they were all Christians because that's what the times were at the time the book was written. And
Yep.
those people wrote it in a language that people at that time could wrap their head around. It wasn't so much about them trying to push God on you. It was just that you get people who come from that Southern Baptist, Protestant background who were getting sober. And at the time when the book was written, everybody was going to church. They were had meetings in church. People who were coming to AA to get sober grew up going to church,
Yeah.
Christian churches. So you write a book that they can understand. How do you reach people? You got to reach them at their level, not at your level, but at their level. So the book was
Mm-hmm.
written to reach people at their level, and that is the level that they had at the time when the book was written. So if you have a problem with God, like you said, read We Agnostics. It is the least read chapter in the big book. It's the least
Yeah.
read chapter, which it blows my mind. You think it be the most read chapter, but it's the least
Yeah.
read chapter. But I don't have a problem with God. Skip that chapter, But you should
Yeah.
read it because it lists all the different names all the different names of God, Spirit of the universe, but all that stuff. And on top of that, it gives you a template for what you can believe or how to believe or how to pray or what to do. And people don't understand that. It's like you don't have to believe in God to be sober. And when I speak
Yeah.
at meetings, I try to weave that into my pitch. It's like you don't have to believe in God at all to get sober. I would suggest finding some sort of spiritual program of some sort that is not about you or comes from you. But I would say that prayer and meditation, which is something I still do, I still pray, I still meditate. It's a little different, but I still pray and I still meditate. I try to do it
Mm-hmm.
twice a day. I do do it in the morning for sure. But in the evenings, it depends on how tired I am and what's going on. But I try to tell people like you don't have to believe in a Christian God or a Muslim God or a Jewish God or whatever God. You don't have to believe in any organized monolithic religion or whatever the case may be, but a spiritual program of some sort. I believe, from a personal standpoint, I believe is essential for sobriety because I relapsed three times. This is my fourth time in sobriety. It's the longest I've ever been sober. And this is the first time in my life that I literally decided that A, it's for me. B, I'm going to have a spiritual program and I'm going to do everything in my power to be a part of this program as a member, not just someone who holds the meetings and hangs out. I'm a GSR for a group. I go to GSR meetings. I get emails every day from AA. I'm in this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm afraid of the guy that's still sitting in the corner waiting for me to relapse. you
Yeah.
know, that
Yeah.
guy that I used to be ain't gone. He hasn't gone anywhere. He hasn't gone anywhere. He's still there, waiting for me to take that drink, so he can go, so we can go back to doing what we used to do. And
Yeah.
and that's another part of it that people keep forgetting is that you got to stop lying to yourself, and you got to stop lying about who you used to be. Yeah, you're sober, and you're this guy, and you're that guy, or you're this girl or that girl. But the truth of the matter is, the person you used to be hasn't gone anywhere. They're not having, it's you're still you can still be that person. You're one drink away from being that person, and you have to be honest about that with yourself. I know I am, and that's what keeps
Yeah.
me here. It's because I know that if I drink, I told my girl this last night. I said, you don't want to meet that guy. You don't.
Yeah.
You don't want to
Yeah.
meet that guy. She goes, how come you don't? She goes, you don't drink, really? You don't? I say, yeah. I say, I become a different person. She goes, how different? And I go, completely. I said, Jekyll and Hyde. She went up. Literally.
Yeah.
Jekyll and Hyde. She said, oh, she was good.
Yeah.
Conversation was over.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's Jekyll and Hyde. You don't want to meet Hyde, man. Hyde is not a nice man. I'm not. I'm just not a nice man. When I drink, I'm not a nice person. I will sleep with your wife, your girlfriend. I will lie to you. I will steal from you. I will do whatever I can so that I can get loaded. That's all I want to do after that point. When I get into that mode, all bets are off. I don't care about myself. So you're screwed. Everybody
Yeah.
else is so screwed.
Yeah. Oh
And that
yeah.
all goes back to the God thing, or to the
Mm,
spiritual aspect of it all. You
yeah.
got to have that. It's an ethos. If you don't have an ethos that you're living by, I don't care what it is, then chances are you're gonna miss that one part of this program that is essential. Because when shit hits the fan and you're by yourself, you have no ethos, it's gonna get weird.
Yeah. Definitely. I can relate, man. I can relate, wholeheartedly. This program is meant to show you that that person is still there.
Mhm.
He's still fucking hiding out in the corner or in a closet somewhere. And if you take that first drink, dude, he's coming right back. And like, I told my wife when I early in my recovery, I said, dude, I am so terrified of a relapse. And she was like, "What? Do you want to relapse?" I said, "No, absolutely not." I said,
Right.
"I'm not looking to relapse. There's nothing that is going to make me relapse, but I'm so fucking terrified of it because I don't know if I'm coming back from this next one. I don't. I can't sit here and tell you that I'll relapse 5 months down the road. I'll be okay.
Right.
I can't tell you that I'll relapse and tomorrow I'll wake up and say, "Oh, I got to get back on the fucking train." You know what I mean? Like I'm terrified of what happens after because I've
Right.
seen what happened before and I know that I go to extremes and the last relapse was worse than the one before it. So
Right.
who the fuck knows what this next one looks like?
Nope.
And I told her, I said, dude, I will never, and I mean this, I will never be able to safely go back to drinking. I will never, not one portion of my brain. And I said, when I come to you and I say, oh, I think that I might be okay, I said, you smack me in the face because that's one, that's gonna wake me up, and two, that's gonna make me realize like I'm talking some bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's seen both sides of me. She met me when I was sober, not working a program. She met me in my relapse. She knew me in my relapse, and she knows me now. And so she's seen phases of my life in which I've walked through. And so for her to be able to see that and recognize the patterns, that's good. I'm
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
proud
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that she can look at me and be like, "You're being an asshole. Check yourself."
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's cool. Thanks.
I was 12 years sober, and I was in a really dark place. Didn't wasn't loaded. Had a great job. I worked at this really great restaurant. We got voted number 5 in the country by GQ magazine at the time. We
Nice.
were like we were crushing it. Like I was at the It restaurant in Venice. And all that. And on the outside, my life was fucking tits. You know what I mean? But inwardly, I was dying inside. Right? I was going to one meeting a week was my home group, my men's stag meeting. It's the only meeting I was going to. I spent 6 days a week playing video games, going to work, playing Call of Duty. That's all I did.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm wondering why I'm miserable. Why am I so miserable? And so I was at a meeting one day. When I was at the home group on this one particular Sunday, and my friend showed up, a guy who's known me since I had like a year. He goes, "Hey man, how you doing?" And I looked at him, and I just couldn't lie. And I just vomited all this garbage all over him. And he looked at me, and he was like, "Here, read this." And he hands me Bill's article on the Final Frontier Emotional Sobriety. And I read that and went, "Oh my God, this is it. This is fucking what's going on." I'm like this white light experience happening on the sidewalk in front of in front of this meeting hall. And he gives me the number to this guy. His name's Wayne Butler. I'm gonna give a shout out to Wayne because Wayne saved my life. And he goes, "Call Wayne. He's got something for you. He's got a solution for you. Call him up." I said, "Okay." So I called up Wayne I think the next day I called Wayne up, and I called Wayne. And I said, "Hey Wayne, Andy gave me your number. This is what's going on with me." And Wayne does this workshop about emotional sobriety. It's really amazing. And he goes, he just head to me. He goes, Sam, I go, what? We got to meet on Saturday. And I said, why? He goes, you're gonna kill yourself. I'm like, what? He goes, you're gonna kill yourself. We got to meet on Saturday. You're gonna kill yourself. And I told him what was going on with me. And he just said, yeah, you're gonna kill yourself. We got to meet this Saturday. We're gonna meet at the Venice Ale House. We're gonna sit down. We're gonna have burgers. We're gonna have burgers and fries. We're gonna talk about you. And I'm like, and I'm all going, what is he talking about? I'm gonna kill myself. Like, I'm not gonna kill myself. At the time I didn't think I was gonna kill myself. And
Yeah.
then I sat down with him and he just kind of asked me a series of questions and I answered them and he's like, yeah, you need to work together. You need my workshop and what I'm doing and what's going on with me because you're at a point in your life right now where physical sobriety has run its course. You need to up your game. I'm like, whatever needs to make me not feel the way that I'm feeling right now, I'm down. I'm down. So I started doing this work based on the St. Francis prayer with him for about almost 3 years, where you had to call somebody every day, 3 people a day, and every day had a different theme, and you had to write what you're grateful for and what you're grateful for. It was a whole thing, and and do a God inventory. So I did 3 God inventories, in the process of all of that, realizing that I was praying to my mom's God, not my own God, not a God of my own understanding, which is why I'm a Buddhist. So there's a whole other aspect of that, but what the point I'm trying to make is, and you brought it up, is that you get to a point where you have to change. Things have to change, and you're right. You get to a point where you don't notice it. People sometimes notice it, like your wife notices you're being an asshole. It's like you get to a point in your life where you don't realize that you need to change, or you don't realize that you need to alter your course, or or get rid of some things, or change your mindset, or like, hey, maybe I might need to call my sponsor up and maybe re-examine, my life through a fourth step, because I'm at a place where I'm miserable and I'm unhappy on the inside, but the outside is amazing. But on the inside, I don't want to die. I want to die. So that tells me that there's something missing, that I'm missing something, and it's not physical, it's probably not spiritual, it's something going on up here that I'm just not seeing. That I
Yeah.
need to start put pen to paper and start writing shit down and looking at my life and looking at what's going on and figure out what needs to change, what I need to get rid of from a behavioral standpoint and a mental standpoint. Because the mindset, it means everything. Your mindset means everything. And if your head isn't right and your head's not in the game, and if you're not looking at your life objectively and saying, I shouldn't do this anymore, or I shouldn't be part of this group anymore, or this person in my life is no good for me. Like, if you're not looking at your life objectively, then you're not trying to be better. You're not
Yeah.
trying to evolve and change. And that's what I tell all my friends. Look at your life objectively. You have to stop and go, well, maybe I shouldn't go out with this girl
Yeah.
because X, Y, and Z. Or maybe I shouldn't have this person in my life because they're toxic and it's just bleeding into my life. You know,
Yeah.
you can.
Absolutely.
I've cut people off because they were
Hmm.
doing toxic shit, and I wanted no parts of it. I cut a good friend of mine off. I told him flat out, "You're doing fucked up shit. I want no parts of it. Call me when you're done." Click.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
The one thing that I see a lot in early recovery from guys and gals is that, like, they'll get to a point. So your path and my path are a little bit different.
Right.
Not so far off. But so once they graduate out of the Veterans Court program or out of the therapeutic court program, and they're free to their own devices, they look and they say, "Okay, this worked for me. I'm gonna stop doing it." What? What? And I see this.
I'm better.
I'm not
I'm
gonna.
better now.
Yeah. Like this guy that I know, really good guy, but he got out and literally the next day was like, no more counseling, no more meetings, nothing. Like, literally, he was like, I'm better. And
Yeah.
and I had a buddy that came to me and he was like, hey man, this guy just did all this, and I said, just wait for the relapse. And literally a week later, relapse, boom,
Mhm.
right back to it. And my mindset is like, why do people get to that point where they feel like they're better and that it was working for them, they don't have to do it anymore? Obviously, if a program's not working for you, or part of the program's not working for you, don't try to force it, because you're going to do more damage to yourself. But if it's working for you, why do you stop? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because that's in a way that kind of sounds like what you were talking about, where you started limiting the the amount of meetings that you were going to, and kind of not taking care of yourself, and you were just this emotional wreck. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
why did you get to that point, or how did you get to
So
that point?
what had happened was, so the worst thing you can possibly do, and I'm guilty of this, hands down, is to think that it's about you. That is the
Yep.
worst thing you could possibly do to yourself if you're a part of this fellowship, is think that it's about you, because it's not about. After step five, it's no longer about you, right?
Yeah.
And I was at this point, I was at this place in my life where I was just like, I don't like this meeting because of this person. I don't like this meeting because of that person. I don't like this. I don't that. I don't that. And me. It's all about me. You're not doing what I want you to do. Fuck off. You know what I'm saying? And it was just I literally got to I was so I didn't even realize at the time. I was so selfish and so self-centered that I was killing myself because of it. And I didn't
Yeah.
even realize that I'm not going to that meeting because this person. I'm not going to hang over here because this person. I'm not blah, blah, blah. Me. It was all about me and what I wanted, and what needed to happen for me, and what I needed to see, and what needed to go on, and right. So I stopped going to these. I stopped going to meet. Only meeting I want to go to is my home group, because those guys understand me, and those guys get me, and blah blah blah. And then I started going to the home group, and that's all I was doing. And then I'm going to work, and then my work life started, and in work, I had the same attitude, but they weren't having it. So it was friction. It was all this friction and all this, resentment after resentment after resentment after resentment and resentment and blah 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 blah. And I'd go to work and I come home and I'd hibernate in my house and play Call of Duty, calling that my relief. It's like I'm gonna relieve myself. I'm gonna feel better. Go and play Call of Duty. I feel better. And and, and you're laughing because it's funny. It's
Yeah.
hilarious. You think
It's
about it.
true.
So I'm at home, a recovering alcoholic, no program, one meeting a week. I'm playing Call of Duty, and I'm like, angry. And then I go to work, I'm angry, and I'm just like, I'm so full of like resentment against people who are just living their lives and not giving a shit about me. And it's not
Yeah.
about they don't care about me, but we're all selfish. We're all about ourselves, So when
Yeah.
you find somebody who's in this fellowship, not about themselves, they're actually doing it because they know they need to, not because they have to. They need to. I don't have to go to a meeting. I don't have to pick up the phone and answer a call when someone calls me. I don't have to have a community. I don't. I need to save my life, because if I
Yeah.
don't, then this thing up here will tell me all kinds of scary shit, and I'll go, yeah, hell yeah, that's a great idea. It's not,
Yeah.
but I'm like, yeah, because you understand me. But this thing wants to kill me.
Yeah.
So that's what happened, is that I disconnected myself because I was so selfish. Selfishness and self-centeredness will kill you. It will
Yeah.
fucking kill you. And it almost killed me. I didn't even know it was going to kill me until someone told me I was going to kill myself. I had no idea, because I was just so caught up in everybody hurting me and not doing what I wanted them to do. And people will do what they want to do, whether I like it or not. You're going to, and I had to learn this, of course, the hard way, is that people aren't here for you. They're here to do what they need to do for themselves. If someone's helping you out, it's because they care enough to step outside of themselves long enough to help you, because they have that empathy and that sympathy and that compassion, because they've developed it. If you're getting something from a recovering alcoholic, like a phone call or anything, it's because they've worked on themselves long enough to know that if I don't do this, I'm going to kill myself. If I
Yeah.
don't do this, I'm going to get loaded. If I'm not trying to get outside of myself long enough to help another person, whether they're sober or not, I'm probably going to start becoming even more and more selfish as the months go on. And then one day I'm in a bar, pounding on the fucking bar, on the fucking bar, going, "Give me another shot," and my life is in shambles. It
Yeah.
happens that fast. So
Yeah. You talked about the selfishness and self-centeredness, man, and I try to keep away from that shit as much as possible. Like, people be like, "Oh, your podcast is great." I'm like, "It's not about me. This has nothing to do with me.
right,
This is for other people." And
right,
even it's not about my guest. I mean, yeah, the guest is sharing the story, but it's about other people hearing that experience that they went through to maybe say, "Oh shit, there's a light that just popped on."
right,
You
right.
know, And then, I did something the other day with my dad, and he came to me and said, that's the most selfless thing that you've ever done. I said, it's because it's not about me. If I made it about me, then it would be, then I would be doing this for other reasons, like,
Right.
approval or,
Mhm.
self satisfaction. But
Right.
it's not because of me. I see another human being in need, and that part of me kicks in and says, "Hey, that person needs fucking help, and I don't care. It has nothing to do with me."
Right.
And
Right.
and so when we start stepping into those realms of being selfish and self centered, our program starts to go to shit.
Well, you also it goes beyond that. Your program will go to shit. But the one thing that I noticed, and I remember this very vividly, is how angry I felt, and how like I'm like waiting for the next bad thing to happen. Like, you're like, I'm ready. Where is it? I'm like, I got my fist balled up. I'm ready to throw the punch. I know something else is going to happen, and it's not. It's just that I've convinced myself through my selfishness that everyone's out to get me. You
Hmm.
know, one person may have done something to upset me, yes, but not every single person is out to do anything to hurt you. But
Yeah.
you've convinced yourself through going playing the tape over and 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 over again about how this person hates you, this person did this, this person did this, and it's one person, but you've basically lumped every single other person into that category because you want this thing to happen the way you want it to happen. You're not willing to let it go and go, I got to move on. I got to
Yeah.
keep going forward, like, and yeah, that happened and that's fine. But that person might be sick. A person might have done it not out of malicious intent against me, but because they're suffering too.
Yeah.
Like, not everybody's having a great day, and you might run into
Yeah.
somebody having a bad day, but you're not the person that made them have the bad day. So they're going to fucking, you might catch the brunt of their bad day, but did you make them have the bad day? If you didn't, take it for what it is and keep going. And I
Yeah.
forgot that. I wasn't looking at my life that way. I wasn't looking at how, yeah, hung up with this person and they did this. But was it because of me or because they're having a bad day or they're sick or they're suffering or maybe they haven't been to a meeting in 6 months? Like, you
Yeah.
don't know what's going on. And if you don't ask those questions to yourself, for yourself, then you're probably going to find out you're going to take that resentment and you're just going to run with it and think everybody else is going to do that to me. Everybody else who says these certain things are going to be like that. Like, so, a case in point, there's the Pacific Group, and everybody's heard of the Pacific Group out here, right?
Hmm.
Everybody's heard. Right? It's not like you don't know. If you're in AA, you know who the Pacific Group is. You just don't.
Yeah.
Everybody knows them, right?
Yeah.
And I made the mistake of thinking that everybody in PG is the same. I did. I made that mistake, right?
Hmm.
So I go to a meeting. I'm 3 years sober. I go to a meeting. This woman treated me like I was a newcomer. Though I had 3 years, she treated me like a newcomer, and that's where the resentment started. That's one woman. This one person treated me like she didn't know me, thought I was new. Told me I can go into dance for free. The dance is free for newcomers. I'm like, I'm not new. Lady, I got 3 years. I know people here. Like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? I gave her my money.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck off, like, and I held on to that resentment, dude. I'm not even kidding you, for like years. I
Hmm.
kept meeting people. I kept meeting people like that, right? I kept meeting people like that over and over and over again. Some were cool, some weren't, right? And so what happened was, I think it was like a few years ago. I actually met one of the old timers from the Pacific Group, and he and I were talking. I didn't even know it was the PG. He and I were talking,
Yeah.
and he was fucking just legit cool, fucking just straight as a motherfucker. And I'm all talking to this guy, and he says to me, he goes, "Hey man," he goes, I go to the PG meeting on Wednesday. You should come by. After the big meeting. He goes, yeah. You should roll through. And I'm like, this guy's in PG, and I'm like, what the? And I was like, damn, like I'm the asshole. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
wow, fucking asshole. And then when I started, then I met some other friends of mine that I hung out with on a regular who were home group members in PG, and they're cool as fuck. And I didn't even know they were in PG because they weren't like those other members of PG. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
I had to. So now I'm like, now I realize that I'm the dick. I let one person or a group of people ruin my experience with PG because I thought all of them were like that, and they're not all like that. I had a crush on a girl. She was in PG. She's not like
Hmm.
that. It's just like, and I thought to myself, I'm like, well, fuck. maybe I should go to some meetings. Maybe I should check it out. And I've been to a couple here and there, and it's not for me. It's not. Oh, I went. I didn't just judge my bases on just on them, but I've gone to PG meetings, and it's just not for me. It's not my brand of AA. Some people go there and get sober. I don't like how the whole dynamic works. It's just not what I'm. It's not what I want to be a part of. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's bad, because it's not bad, because it works for people. So if people are getting sober, people are fucking finding themselves through that group of people, which is amazing
Yeah.
for an alcoholic to go. Oh, I'm going to go to this group. They're hardcore. They're all about the program. They're all about the book. Clarence is dead. And that's a sad thing, because he was a pillar of fucking AA, an awesome human being, and one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. And I'm so sad. It's so sad that he's passed on. But it's just like, you can't. And I have to remember. I have to remind myself this. You cannot judge a group of people based on one person. You can't. You have to immerse yourself in the situation before you start going, well, that person's an asshole and that person sucks and this person blah, 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 blah. How do you know? You've talked to one person.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're going to base your opinion on a group of people based on one person, then you're a shallow human being and you're looking for an excuse to hate them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of why another reason why I try to do I try to like not just go into a situation, half cocked, trying
Yeah.
to force my opinion on people, because I might get a resentment and end up fucking almost killing myself again.
Yeah. Now I do have a question,
Okay.
and this is something that I've thought about, and it's going to touch a little bit into biases, and I think it's okay.
All right.
But the term Cali sober,
Oh, that's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous.
I agree.
Okay, so I had a sponsor, saved my life, right? Saved my life. Hands down, this guy, like, he fucking called me on my bullshit on a regular basis. One time, when I was newly sober, he looked at me and he said, "Sam, stop lying." I said, "How you know I'm lying?" He goes, "Because you're talking."
Right?
And I'm like, fuck. And another girl said it to me too. She's like, "Sam, stop lying." I said, "I know I'm lying because you're talking." So I'm like, shit. When you're new, you're all full of shit. When you're new, you don't know what the fuck's going on. You're totally full of shit. And so he got sober. He had when he sobered, when he was sponsoring me, he had 22 years of sobriety. And that to me was amazing. I only had 3 years. He had 22, man. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this is amazing. Like, I want you to sponsor me. He was that guy. Going to meetings. We started a picnic on the first Sunday of the month at our home group. He was like sponsoring a bunch of dudes. He had this crazy ass story. He was like, they'd always say your sponsor's story is worse than your story. I heard his story and I'm all like, that's why he's my sponsor, because his story is way worse than mine. Like, he was that guy. Everybody loved him. He sponsored women, did sleep with none of them, like, he was that guy. And then he started playing poker professionally, stopped going to meetings, stopped working with all of us, kind of just disappeared. And then he got the car, the house, the girl, and the money, and got loaded. Like, just and I was in denial for years. I wouldn't even call him. And that's how much I loved him as a human, that I was in such denial that he was in that bad of a state that I wouldn't even call him up. I couldn't. I'm like, how does that guy get loaded? You know what I mean? Like, how does he get loaded?
Yeah.
And I was so in denial about it all. So one day I finally bought a car, like last year. This time last year I bought a car. And I was headed to my now home group down in Redondo Beach. And I said, let me call this guy up and see how he's doing. I call him up and I'm talking to him. And he's like, I'm like, hey, what's going on? I heard what happened. And he gave me the rundown, like the whole rundown of what happened with him. Right? And then he says, I'm California sober. And I said, what the hell is that? And he goes, well, I don't do cocaine and I don't drink alcohol and I don't do this and this and this, but I smoke weed. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah. I have a drink. I have a drink every now and again, but I don't drink every day. So I'm Cali sober. And I'm like, that to me isn't sober. That's not sobriety. Sobriety to me, and this is my 100% my opinion, because in the book it says a desire not. The only requirement for membership is a desire not to drink. So you can be loaded in a meeting. You can. It's there's no rule against saying you can't go to a meeting drunk or high. There's no rule saying you can't. But my opinion is, if you're going to tell me you're sober, I'm going to assume you're not doing anything. No weed, no pills, no alcohol, no blow, no fucking
Yeah.
salvia, no fucking fentanyl, what the hell ever that is. You're not no meth. You're not doing anything that alters your brain chemistry unless it's doctor approved. And
Yeah.
you're in a medical state where you need to take some shit.
Yeah.
That basically has opiates in it or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
You're not prescribed some shit by a doctor that's just helping you get through some sort of surgery or whatever the case may be. You're not sober to me, in my opinion, and I'm not going to consider you sober. And you stand up, take a cake, saying I'm California sober, I might end up punching you in your face.
Yeah.
Like I'm not even. Or I will want to, no or less. I will want to punch you in the face. And I'm like, and I hear that, and I go, what the fuck is no? Like, and this is my opinion, not AA's opinion, NA's opinion, CA's opinion. This is my opinion, my own personal opinion. Is I meet somebody who's a California sober, and I'm gonna go, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, whatever. You can go to meetings, you can get a commitment for all I give a shit. But
Yeah.
you stand up, take a chip, you better be like in my head. You need to not have anything in your system that start claiming sober, like true sobriety. Because true sobriety, in my opinion, is you're not doing anything. Because I haven't done anything in 22 years. Don't say, and I can't say that I've never not thought about it. And there hasn't been moments in my life where I thought, you know what, drinking right now sounds really good. But then I stop and I go, yeah, well, you're gonna be in jail within a week. And I'm like, okay,
Facts.
not doing that now. We're not drinking right now because I'm gonna go to jail.
Yep.
And there's nothing. And here's the thing about California sober. It's like, I think, to me, it's a cop out. It's like they can't let go of everything. They can't. They have to have something to cope. And that's fine. I'm not saying you can't get high. I'm not saying you can't drink. But don't sit there and tell me you're California sober, because that's just a made up term to justify the fact that you don't want to give up everything. In my opinion, you're trying to justify the fact that you can't stop everything and live without having something in your body. To me,
Yeah. I completely agree 100% with what you just said. And another bias I had was, and I'm glad that you brought it up, is MAT, medically assisted treatment.
yeah,
Because I had a bias against that, and when I was in jail, I seen people using Suboxone, but they weren't using it to get sober; they were using it to get high.
right.
And so I got out, I started working my program, and I seen somebody say, "Oh, I'm taking Suboxone or Vivitrol," and I'm like, "That's not fucking clean. Like, you're not sober, right?" And because that's what I seen in jail, and so it wasn't actually my good buddy that I'm gonna have on, tomorrow. He came to me and he's like, "Hey, man, I'm taking Suboxone. It's helping me stay clean," and I'm like, no, I call bullshit. And he was like, here. He's like, I'm gonna tell you one thing. He's like, am I doing drugs? And I said, well, honestly, I don't know. He's like, I've been sober. I haven't touched, my drug of choice in X amount of time. I said, okay. And he's like, they've lowered my dose, and I have actually willingly asked to have my dose lowered because it's, I don't need it in that fashion anymore. And that was when my bias changed, because I was like, okay, not everybody that's taking this is using it to get high, and there's actually people that are getting sober and staying sober that way. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say 100% of people that take Suboxone or Vivitrol or Methadone or whatever is out there are doing it to stay sober. Some are just doing it to get fucked up and to supplement them in between their use.
Right.
But there's a good majority of people now. How do you feel about that?
So I worked at a rehab for a short amount of time. In Malibu, actually, and there was a couple clients there. I can't divulge any names or anything like that, or who the people who were in the rehab were. I can't do any of that. But what I can say is I worked at a sober living treatment facility in Malibu, and one of the guys took Suboxone. Right, I didn't know what it was, and he got it. I think it was like once a day or twice a day. I don't even remember, and. And since I wasn't clinically licensed to administer anything. Only thing I could do was open up the cabinet and just let him grab it himself. I couldn't do anything other than that because I'm not a medical doctor, and if it will be, if it was any of that, I'm not licensed to hand out medication. So what we were told to do was unlock the cabinet and let them grab it themselves. Their names on the box the whole bit. And then I asked, "What is Suboxone?" And they said it's synthetic heroin. And I said, "Why is he taking it?"
Yeah.
And they said because it wings them off of the opiates. And I said, "Okay, so that's like methadone."
Mm-hmm.
They're like, "Well, kind of." And I got it. It's not as intense as methadone, but it's for the same principle. It weans. If you're doing it the right way, you're weaning off of opiates, and
Mm-hmm.
eventually you won't even need the Suboxone anymore. So it's like a Suboxone, like it's like maintenance. It's like
Yeah.
you're because in truth, when alcoholics quit alcohol, they're given phenobarbital because to keep from having seizures. Because you have
Yeah.
seizures if you're a real alcoholic and your body is so saturated with alcohol that you take it away, you're going to have the DTs and seizures and die. Phenobarbital keeps you from having that happen.
Yeah.
It's a barbiturate, and it's not it's a narcotic, but its sole purpose is so that so your body can detox and without you dying, basically from the detox,
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so that's what Suboxone I think is being used for. It's clinically used. What it's supposed to be used for is
Yeah.
so that you can kick the heroin without without all the other side effects of being dope sick, and then eventually it lowers you, like your friend did, lowers your dose, lowers your dose, lowers your dose,
Yeah.
lowers your dose, to the point where your body's like, okay, we're good, just not no more Suboxone. So if
Mm-hmm.
people are using it in that manner, that's I have no problem with that. And I mean, if you want to get high with it, that's fine too. I don't care, but don't say you're sober because you're not.
Yeah.
If in my opinion, but if you're taking Suboxone to wean off of opiates to the point where you're wanting to get off of opiates and you don't want to go through all the DTAs and the diarrhea and all that other bullshit, then go for it. I mean, I would rather see somebody do that than have them fucking rolling around on the floor talking about I'm gonna shit my pants because I'm trying to get dope.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is. There's a trade off. There's a trade off for using it, but like you said, like it's why. It's not about what it is. It's why are you doing it? If you're not asking questions and you're like I said, you're not talking. We have to talk to each other. If we're not
Mm-hmm.
communicating, and someone says, "Well, I'm doing this," if you don't ask why, then your opinion is not valid. In my opinion, your opinion is not valid. If you telling me, "Hey, I'm taking Suboxone," I'm like, "Why?" Oh, because I'm been doing heroin for 25 years, and I'm gonna get off of heroin, and I'm gonna go, oh, okay, right on. But if you say I'm taking Suboxone and walk away, I can have any opinion from that point on,
Yeah.
and it might not even be valid, and I might spread a rumor. He's on
Yeah.
Suboxone. I don't think he's sober. I think he's just using it to get high, and that's not even, and might not even be true. He might be using
Yeah.
it for the right reasons. So when I asked my old sponsor, what do you mean by he's California sober? He told me, and I was just like, that's not sober.
No.
That's not. If that's California sober, I want no parts of it because I know me. I'm going to go back to my comfort zone,
Yeah.
and that's meth behind a dumpster with a bottle of vodka.
Facts. Facts.
you know.
Now, yeah. Now, what do you, today? What are you
Mhm.
doing to stay sober today?
Oh God, it's it's gotten easier. It's not about. See, and someone asked me this question the other day. I think it was a month ago. This person asked me, uh, What's it like now that I'm over 20 years sober?" And kind of thing that you just asked me. And I said, it's not what I'm doing. I don't think about what I don't think about it. I'm just doing it. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
about what I'm doing. I don't think about, oh, I'm not gonna drink today, or I need to go to a meeting today, or whatever. It's Monday. What's today? Today's Tuesday. So I was supposed to be going to Mount Hunger, but I'm GSR at Mount Hunger. So, but me and my lady going to go to the Sparks game. So I'm not going to go to Mount Hunger tonight. I'm going to get my car. I was sitting talking to you, chatting with my alternate GSR. I texted him, had asked him to cover my commitment for me tonight. He's going to do that. You know, this to me is a meeting. I'm sharing my experience with you, and we're talking.
Yeah.
So I've got my meeting in for the day, so to speak. you know,
Yeah.
so to speak. I mean, it's not an actual meeting, but I'm actually sharing my experience with you, it's one, and I'm not going to get loaded today because I don't want to get loaded. And it's today, whatever. Tomorrow's Wednesday, so I'm going to go. I'm probably going to get up in the morning, do my prayer meditation like I do every morning. I'm gonna go drive. I started driving Lyft, so I'm gonna go driving tomorrow for about maybe 6 hours tomorrow, like all over LA, and then I'm probably gonna meet with my lady at some point, and then she and I might go. She might come with me to a meeting because I go to a meeting Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. She might me and her might roll to a meeting for an hour. She can go. It's a two speaker meeting. She so no one's gonna be sharing. And she can just hang out with me in a meeting. She won't mind, and then we'll probably go to a good dinner somewhere and just hang out. Like I don't think about what to do because my life now has gotten so simple and so I wouldn't say routine
Yeah.
in a way, but as far as sobriety is concerned, it's routine. Like if I'm not doing anything, I'll hit a meeting. If I gotta go to work, I go to work. If I have free time, I'll call somebody. Like there are people where I work at who are sober. If I have talked to somebody, if I'm in a funk or in a place, there's guys that work at another spot in the market that are sober. I go talk to one of them. Like my boss knows I'm sober. I don't hide the fact that I'm sober. I don't hide it. I don't not talk about it because I have to.
Yeah.
I don't wear it like on my sleeve. Like, I'm sober. It's more like if someone asks me if I drink, I say no,
Yeah.
and they say why, I'll tell. If they ask why, I tell them why. You know, and sometimes I want to go there because I have diabetes now. I'm a diabetic. I say I'm diabetic. You don't see people don't realize this. You don't have to get into why you're sober. You don't have to
Yeah.
get into what or who you were, or what's going on. I mean, I do it jokingly sometimes. Like one time I was at work one time and some guy goes, "You want to have a beer?" And I was all like, "You give me that beer, I'm probably going to rob you. I'm going to rob him. I'm going to rob her. I'm probably going to sleep with her friend." And he looked at me and he goes, "What?" And I'm all like, "Yeah, that's happened when I drink." And he's all like, "Well, give me that beer back." You don't get a beer, like. And I do it jokingly so that people understand that I don't take it so seriously that you can't talk to me about it. I was sitting down with some guys yesterday actually, having lunch and talking about some bar around the corner that has cheap beer, $3 a beer. I didn't say I don't drink. I was in the conversation like, cheap beer? What kind of beer? And they were talking about beer. The book talks about it. Wear it like a loose garment. You know what I mean? Like I
Mhm.
know I can't drink safely. I know I can't get high. I know I can't go to a bar unless I have a reason I'm going to a bar. The birthday party, bars have Coke, bars have cranberry juice. They got soda water and lime. I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm
Yeah.
good. I don't have to not go places because they serve alcohol. I won't go to a fucking weed smoking party because that's not
Yeah.
because there ain't nothing there for me. But I've been a designated driver. I've been a designated driver because everybody knows I'm sober. I've gone to birthday parties that I would have never gotten invited to because I'm sober and I was a designated driver. I've been to events because of that reason. And my friends call me up and say, "Hey, you want to drive for us because we want to go out and party and we know you don't drink." Boom, done. You know what I mean? I'm gonna hang out with all my friends from high school. Some of them weren't alcoholic. They're normies, like as we call them, and they
Mhm.
still drink
Yeah.
occasionally or every day, but they don't have a problem. And I've given for them. You know what I mean? Like so, my life in sobriety today is just about doing what's in front of me. And I know I can't drink safely, and I know I shouldn't drink, and I know that there are places I shouldn't go, and I don't
Mhm.
go, and I don't have FOMO. I don't have FOMO because FOMO, in that respect, means that you're waiting to relapse. You
Yeah.
know, I don't miss smoking weed. I think it stinks. I smell it. It smells gross to me now. It's weird.
Yeah.
And it's legal out here. So it's like
Yeah.
I don't even want it. I don't even want it. So
Mhm.
I tell people, like my life in sobriety now, it's really just about living. I'm just living. I don't think about. Oh, I'm going to go here and I should worry about alcohol. I'm going to a Sparks game tonight, and I'm telling my girlfriend, "You want to drink? Drink. I'm driving, so you want to drink? Drink." She
Yeah.
probably won't. They serve alcohol there. There's nothing stopping me from drinking but me. And literally, there's nothing between me and the drink but me and my higher power. That's it. And there's no one sitting there going, "Sam, don't drink. Don't No one's gonna
Yeah.
stop you. No one. The world doesn't give
Yeah.
a shit that we're sober. So I have to care. And as long as I care, that's all that matters. And I live my life in a manner that's conducive to what's going on with me and what's happening in my life. and I try to be nice to people, like I said, and I try to live my life in a respectful manner, and so that I'm happy. I get to go home at night most nights knowing I've done the right thing by people that I've met throughout the day, and I don't have to worry about making an amends or doing a 10 step at night when I come home, because 10 step to me is it's not the asshole clause. It's not. You make a
Yeah.
mistake, you immediately correct it, not go home and write some shit down on a piece of paper and then, I gotta call my sponsor. No, it's like right then and there, you know,
Yeah.
correct it.
Yeah.
So I try to live my life not having to make a 10 step,
Yeah.
not having to apologize to somebody for I mean, if I'm human, I make a mistake. You apologize right then, promptly admit. Step 11, prayer and meditation every morning and mostly in most of the evenings. And the 12th step is don't be a dick, you know,
Don't
and
be a dick. Yep. Love it.
and help someone. It doesn't say, it says practice principles in all our affairs, all of our affairs, not just when we're in a room full of alcoholics. It's all our affairs. Today, I practiced this principle today when I had that guy in my car. When I got to that small little accident, I was as kind to him as I possibly could be, and I practiced principles in all our affairs. I got him where he needed to go. I got him home like I set out to do. You know what I mean? The tow truck driver came out. So I did the tow truck driver. Everybody that I ran into today, I was as polite and as kind as I can be, and that's kind of
Yeah.
how I live, and that's how I stay sober. Is I try to be the best version of myself that I possibly can be, and I don't worry about drinking because it's not something that I want to do.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. And I wear my sobriety like a loose garment.
Yeah, I joke around about certain things, like, somebody says, "Oh, you don't drink, why not?" And I say, "I don't want to go to jail again," and I just leave it open ended, and they're like, "What?" Because I mean, a lot of people that know me know that I've been to jail, but not everybody does, and they're like, "What the fuck?" Or my wife and I will joke around, and she'll like start poking me. I'm like, "I don't want to go to jail again, lady. You might want to stop."
I failed to mention, and I know time's almost up, but I went to prison sober because I had a time on an old warrant. And I went to Hagerstown for 2 years and 9 months, and that I think that was an experience that I can't ever forget.
Yeah.
You can't unsee shit, as I say. You can't unsee shit.
Facts.
You know.
Yeah.
And when I talk about when people talk about like in the early days of AA, all they had was the book, and there were no meetings. And if you wanted to stay sober, you had to write to New York and get the book. Well, actually, Akron. At first, it was Akron, then it was New York. And you got the book, you read the book, and you did what you followed the instructions on the fourth step and the fifth step and all that stuff, and then you made your amends and blah 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 and all that stuff. And I experienced that when I went to prison because I went. They had no meetings for a year and 4 months, so there were no meetings in the prison for a year and 4 months, right? So all I had was the book and a desire not to get loaded. And I got a job I went back to school and got my GED while I was in prison. And then I got a job in the reading lab because I knew if I didn't do something for someone else, I was going to get loaded. And there was heroin in the prison. There was alcohol in the prison. There were two old guys making moonshine on the fucking tier. It wasn't like I couldn't get it. It was there. But
Yeah.
I realized that if I don't get out of myself at least for 4 to 5 hours a day, I'm going to get loaded, or I'm going to something dumb's going to happen. And that's when I got a job in the reading lab. And doing those things kept me sane and it kept me sober. And reading that book every single morning kept me sober. And got me through that through those 2 years. Not saying I didn't get in the fights. I got in 3 fights. I went to the hole 3 times. Not saying that things don't happen because they always do. You can't avoid it. Prison, you can't avoid it.
Yeah.
But I made it through that experience knowing that the book, there's power in that book, man. There's power in that book. There's power in wanting to be sober if you really want to. You don't have to not reach out, to
Yeah.
people. You can write to people. People wrote to me. I got to make phone calls, like the desire. If your desire to stay sober is stronger than your desire to get loaded, you're going to stay sober. That's just a fact. It doesn't matter how great the desire to stay sober is. As long as it's greater than your desire to get loaded, you're going to make it through that. You're going to make it through that day. Like all I worry about 9 times out of 10 is what's happening today.
Absolutely.
All I got.
Absolutely.
That's all we got. So,
All right. So, if there's anybody If you had to give some advice or suggestion to anybody that's going through it, that's early in their recovery, that wants to say, get sober, stay sober, what would you give to them?
Well, based on my own personal experience, the best thing that I ever did, ever did, was I found a group of people who would call me on my bullshit, who wouldn't lie to me, who held me accountable, who cared about enough about me to pick up the phone and call if they didn't see me. Um, I got a commitment at a meeting that kept me visible, in early sobriety. My first commitment was I was setup guy. So the setup guy's got to show up. You got to show up to the meeting up. You got to be
Yeah.
there. So my first commitment ever was I was setup guy at my old home group. I was set up. I came in, set the chairs up, got everything ready to go for the meeting. That was my job. And then my second commitment was I did birthdays. So I was a chef. I'm a chef. So I made the cakes. I actually baked the cakes myself. I bake them myself. Went by,
Nice.
I bake them myself, and I got that commitment. And then I got on a YPAW committee, because I needed having fun in sobriety is paramount. If you're not having fun in sobriety, you're doing it wrong. You're
Mm-hmm.
doing this whole thing completely wrong. And you don't have to get on a YPAW committee to have fun in sobriety. There's sober softball. We have it out here in LS every Sunday from 2 to 4. Sober softball. There's things that you can do that you did drunk, you can do sober.
Yep.
So I would say the one thing I would say is just immerse yourself in this program. Be visible. Be as visible as possible. Get a commitment, or be around a group of people who care enough about you to call you on your shit. To like, if you're not around, they're like, "Where are you? What's going on?" And they can look at you and tell you're not right, and they're willing to pull you to the side and say, "Hey, you're not." You know. And the second thing I would say is everybody's got an opinion. Everybody has an opinion. You know, everybody, especially when you're new. You shouldn't do this when you're new. You shouldn't do that when you're new. You shouldn't blah 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 when you're new. The only person's opinion that matters is your own. That's the only opinion that matters is your own. Your life is your own. You're the only person who is responsible for the decisions that you make in your life. Mistakes, good or bad, whatever the case may be, you're the only person at the end of the day that's responsible for you. And you have to remember that. If someone tells you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you ask them why. Ask them
Yeah.
why shouldn't I do that? Why can't I have this? Why can't I be with her? Why can't I be with him? Don't get me wrong. I had nothing to offer another human being when I was sober. I had nothing to offer. I was just a shell of a human being. I was a shell of a man. I was a feral animal. I had no business being in any kind of relationship that wasn't like society approved, because I was an insane human being when I first got sober. So being in a relationship was not for me because I was a nut job, and
Yeah.
I'm the first to admit it. But that's not everybody's story, and that's not everybody's situation. So I can't give somebody some suggestions based on my own personal experience, because that's crazy to me. So what I tell people is that you do whatever you're willing to deal with. If you're willing
Mm-hmm.
to deal with X, Y, and Z, go for it. If you can take the consequences of it, you can live with. If you make a mistake, go for it. Everybody has an opinion. You know, and you gotta remember that people are going to judge you whether you like it or not. People gonna think about you whether you like it or not. And just live, man. Like, you gotta live. You gotta just get out there and live. Don't hide from the world. I see people, and this is something else I'm going to say as a great suggestion. I see people hide in the rooms from life. They hide meetings every day, commitments, blah blah blah, blah, on, on. But they're not living. They're just going to meetings and going home or being a part of the fellowship. And I'm saying that's not a bad thing. Going to meeting every day isn't a bad thing. But there's got to be a point where you're willing to just live. Get out there and live life. You know, get in a
Yeah.
relationship, get a job. Like, get a hobby, like go play golf, football. Just get out there and live, because that's what this program was set up for us to do. It wasn't set up for us to like get sober and then hide in a room with other alcoholics, not living life.
Yeah.
People get sober to go back out into society, to live in society, so that those who are in society, who are suffering from alcoholism, can see there's a way out of what they're in. There's a way out. And if we're hiding in the rooms, those folks who are still sick won't know that they can get sober and then go back to living life. And that's what I do. I try to live life. I'm going to basketball games tonight. Why? Because I have to live life, man. I have to get out and live. You know, and if you're not out living, you're gonna cop a resentment in a meeting. You are, and you'll get loaded because you haven't developed a life for yourself. And my counselor told me to do that. He told me take 2 days out of the week and don't go to a meeting and just go go to a movie. Go hang out with your friends. Like go to a park and sit and just enjoy the day. Because just go live. You know, and that's the biggest thing I can say to anybody who's new in sobriety is develop a routine within your life that you're held accountable. You have a commitment in the meeting you have to go to every week. You can get it covered if you can't make it. Get a job and live life. You have to live. If you're not out living life, you're missing the point about being sober, in my opinion. You're missing the point. That's the biggest point about it all. You know, is that you have to show people who are still sick and suffering that they can get sober and go right back out into life and live without drinking the way that they used to drink and living the way they used to live. And they can still have all those other things that they want in life. If you're not doing that, then you've missed the point with the 12 step. The 12 step. You've missed the point. The biggest point about it is you're the example. You're the big book that everybody gets to see when they don't actually have a big book in their hands. You're the example of a big book. And everybody else is going to see until they actually see a big book. You're that example. You're that book. You're that walking, talking, breathing big book. You know?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Well, Sam, thank you so much for being on the show. You're an amazing human being.
Oh,
just want to let you know. You're a fucking awesome dude.
Thanks. Yeah. Your old man's a good dude, man. He's a lot. Yeah. I miss him. I miss all those guys, man. Like it's weird how like we're all some of us are sober. Some of us were never alcoholics to begin with, and some of us were and now we're sober. And it's just like whenever I see your dad on Facebook, I'm just like, I just have all these wonderful memories and great fucking times, dude. Like we had so much fucking stupid fun together.
well, maybe we'll do a show with you and Dad.
Maybe. I'd love to do that, man. He probably remembers more about me than I do because he probably does, dude. I'm not gonna kill you, man. Because people tell me, remember we did this? I'm like, no, I don't remember we did that.
Yeah, I get people coming to me. They're like, "Oh, you remember this?" And I'm like, I do, but please, let's not talk about that. Like, it's not who I used to be, or not who I am now.
Yeah.
I don't run from it anymore, though. So.
No. I just don't remember stuff. People tell me things, and I'm like, I did that, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not saying they're wrong. I just don't remember doing it.
Right. Funny. All right, we're gonna go ahead and cut this. And once again, Sam, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for hanging out. It was pretty awesome, and I'm excited to have you back on sometime.
Of course, man. Anytime. I have the link, so we're good to go.
All right, brother. All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and end this show. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for sitting with me for a while and hanging out. Much love, guys. Have a good day.
All right, brother.